been a long time since I've actually watched the show The View, and there's good reason for that. I actually think that when it comes to politics, and I think that when it comes to some of the economic issues that we have in this country, I believe that their analysis is quite cringe. You have to remember that these women are very rich, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Well, recently, Joy Behar actually just came under fire for making a pretty classist comment towards Gen Zers. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here from Case Study QB. Joy Behar tells Gen Z to get a job. That's right, folks. And of course, Fox Business actually aired this as well. Of course, they're in agreement of this. Listen to this.
In defense of Gen Z, they're not hitting the milestones the way every generation before them did. They're owning homes at a lower rate. This is wild. 45% of people between ages 18 to 29 still live with their parents. They feel left behind by the economy, and they also see everybody trying to not age. So please get a job. No, but they have jobs. No, they have to work more.
So you see this, right? You see this? Okay. So the young woman here who was speaking in the white, she's actually correct. Joy Behar's response is get a job.
35% of people between ages 18 to 29 still live with their parents. They feel left behind by the economy, and they also see everybody trying to not age. So please get a job. No, but they have jobs. No, they have to work more jobs. There's a million job openings in this country. Get a job.
They've also lived through a pandemic. They've lived through the worst of times. I'm raising two Gen Zers, so boo-hoo.
Kevin.
So let's just pause there for a second. So this is Joy Behar here on the left, Miss Get a Job. So a couple of things. The first thing, Joy Behar again, believe she would fall under the boomer category. So just keep that in mind. Joy Behar believes that the reason why Gen Z is struggling economically is because they're not working. They're not willing to work, right? Okay. Joy Behar is a millionaire. She's rich. And I don't mean she's just rich. She's rich, rich. I'm going to show you her net worth, and then you'll understand. The reality is, whether it's Gen Z or millennials, a lot of people are working multiple jobs. And you should not have to do that in this country. One of the wealthiest countries in the world. You shouldn't have to work multiple jobs. You see, Joy, in her little small world, she thinks that if someone is struggling economically and they're living with their parents, it means that they're not working. Well, let me tell you a little story. When I graduated undergrad, I moved in with my parents for a year and I worked. I had 2 jobs and I worked my ass off. I lived with my parents for a year so that I could save money and get my own. Okay? So my parents were willing to help me out. The reality is not everybody has parents that can do what my parents did. That's just the reality. But if I were to tell Joy Behar during that time, if I were to say, it's really rough out here economically, I'm working 2 jobs. Yes, I'm living with my parents so I can save money. Joy Behar, get a job. There's a lot of openings out there, she says. Go apply for a job. This is the same woman that was a like Bernie Sanders supporter for Bernie's 2016 presidential campaign. Bernie Sanders, of course, was running on what? The class issue. He was running on the economy. He was running on wealth inequality, and he was calling out the banks. Now, all of a sudden, Joy Behar pretends that she doesn't understand these economic issues. The kids are just lazy, according to Joy. Rich Joy. All of these women on this panel, on this show, are wealthy. This is not just a regular 9-to-5 job that you go to where they may be making like 6 figures. These women are wealthy. This is Joy's mindset. Now, this was on Fox Business. Let me show you what they said on Fox Business.
I think this is one of those rare occasions when you will agree with Joy Behar. Get a job. Is that right?
I have a couple of Gen Zers in my family. I kicked them out a long time ago. The only way is what my mother used to say to me: the dead bird under the nest never learns how to fly.
Two rich men. Okay. This gentleman here, he's one of the hosts of the show Shark Tank. Again, entrepreneur. Again, two rich men. So have you guys noticed this pattern? This pattern of rich people telling people who are working class and poor to get a job. I got mine. You can get yours too. Again, if I had to guess, I assume they would fall into that boomer category. And I'm saying this again because I'm going to explain to you why that is significant. The economy that boomers, and that's my parents, the economy that they grew up in has been very different for those of us who are millennials and those of us who are Gen Z. We never earned what we should have income-wise when we were our parents' age and when they were our age. It never matched up. Our wages did not adjust for inflation. Everything continued to increase. Then you had the housing crisis in '08. You had a pandemic, like all of these things that have happened. So this is why you have to understand when they make these comments, they didn't go through the same things that a lot of us went through. So keep that in mind. There's a reason why my parents were able to say, yes, you can come stay with us for a year and save money and we'll help you out. My generation, however, we would not be able to do that for our kids. That's what people have to understand. We're talking about a generation where some people not only had a home, they had two homes. Okay? Like they had a main home, which is where they mainly reside, and they had like a vacation home. This is what we're talking about, folks. Or they had a starter home, and then they said, okay, let's move up and let's get a bigger house. There is no starter home for us. What you get is what you got. This is it. This is it.
And that means you can't keep them in the house. They've got to go fend for themselves out there, and there are lots of jobs. But to be fair, Stuart, remember, we raised rates from basically zero to 5.5%, changing the whole cost equation for a generation that had never seen high rates. They've never paid 23% of their credit cards. Now they are, and they're freaking out.
In defense of
think about what he just said. They never paid 23% on their credit cards. Now they are, and they're freaking out. You just assume that all of these Gen Z kids have credit cards? You just make that assumption? Again, two rich men criticizing people who are struggling economically. And you got rich, bougie ass Joy Behar, who all of a sudden doesn't remember that there were economic struggles and this was a big crisis in this country, even though she supported Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016. And that was all he freaking talked about. Now, all of a sudden, she doesn't remember. Midwestern Marks had a good take on this. I want to play this clip here.
Joy Behar of The View scoffs at young people feeling left behind by the economy. Oh, please get a job. Boo-hoo. Yeah, we already tried that, Joy. We have jobs. And guess what? 80% of us are still living paycheck to paycheck. It's almost like capitalism incentivizes the employers to drive wages down as much as possible so they can maximize their own profits. It's almost like capitalism leads to inflation and a constant increase in the price of goods. It's almost like this economy isn't working for anybody except shareholders on Wall Street and rich condescending people in Hollywood. Like, is Joy Behar really telling us to get a job? Being a host of The View is not a real job. It's just like 2 or 3 upper-class liberal white women plus Meghan McCain and Whoopi Goldberg complaining about stuff and giving half-baked political analysis. Meanwhile, my buddies who work concrete 9 hours a day still can't afford healthcare. And Joy Behar's answer to them is to get a job. Yeah, let's not change our healthcare system so that we have universal care like every other developed country in the freaking world. Nah, let's just tell people to get a job and scapegoat workers and young people and say that they haven't worked hard enough for healthcare. They're lazy. You gotta earn your insulin, you son of a bitch.
Something to seriously think about, right? Now I want to show you why Joy needs to be quiet. Let's look at the net worth, okay? Because I want you to see what these women are actually making. People think this is just some, casual anchor job. No. These women are making bank. The View host rank by net worth. So let's go down here, okay? 6th, you have Alyssa Farah Griffin. That's the woman who was wearing the white jacket, who was talking about what Gen Zs are complaining about. It says she made $183,000 in 2020 working for Trump, and given her career path and current job, she's not exactly hurting for money. Okay, so they don't give too much about her. Anna Navarro, which I call her like wannabe View, because like Anna just shows up every now and then, it's like she's like one of the women that are a part of the cast for Real Housewives, but they weren't given a feature, so to speak. Like they're not a part of the main cast of Real Housewives, but they're in almost every episode and they're still trying to become one of the main housewives. She's like that. So if we want to look at her net worth, and we can see here, hers is an estimate. Again, she's not on there as much. They said, as a newbie on the show, Navarro was likely pulling in around $250,000 per year. And that's just that show. And then it says Navarro has an estimated net worth of $3 million. $3 million for Sunny Hostin. So Sunny Hostin's net worth is estimated to be $3 million. Also, you got to remember, these women don't just do this show. They also write books. Let's continue. It goes here. Someone was awarded 3 years back pay. Oh yeah, I remember this part. And it says she's now reportedly paid $1.6 million per year. Sarah Haynes. So let's see how much Sarah Haynes is worth. Haynes has an estimated net worth of $6 million. She reportedly makes $1.5 million a year for The View. Now we get to Joy. Now notice Joy is ranked 2nd. This is the woman who's complaining and telling people to get a job. So let's see how much Joy Behar is worth. Hold on to your seat for this one because y'all going to get pissed. You guys are going to be mad right here. Behar worked on various TV shows and movies, as well as her career as a stand-up comedian and writer, has earned her a net worth of $30 million. She makes about $7 million per year for The View. Let me just say this again, folks. Joy Behar, her net worth is $30 million. Net worth is what you own minus what you owe. So there's that. Then on top of that, The View was paying her $7 million a year to sit at that table and to say stupid things like, go get a job. Do you think she's worth $7 million a year for that gig? Go get a job, she says. And last but not least is Whoopi Goldberg, who is number 1 in reference to the pay here. And it says Whoopi Goldberg's net worth sits at $60 million. In 2016, her salary was estimated to be between $5 million to $6 million range. Today, some sources place it at $8 million. So these women don't have room to talk about anybody needing to have a job or get a job. That was a very classist statement from Joy Behar. But once again, it goes to show you there are very few class traders out there. There are some. There aren't a lot. There aren't a lot. And Joy apparently is not one of them. Because it's easy to look down your nose at people after you already got yours. It's easy to look down your nose at people when your net worth is $30 million and you're making $7 million a year. then you can just look down your nose. I remember Joy Behar. She said this during Bernie's 2020 campaign. She said that when she went to college, she paid $50 for the semester. $50. But she want to tell you to go get a damn job. Now, we're going to see the comparison here from this gentleman. Why millennials and Gen Z are poorer than ever. Listen to this. This is important.
For younger generations, the cost of living has increased so much that they have 86% less purchasing power than the baby boomers did when they were in their 20s. Now, baby boomers are defined as anyone born from the years 1946 to 1964. And for those boomers, they lived during a time where life was much cheaper, including houses, cars, and education. Yet we hear all the time that younger generations have a ton of flaws, like they're super lazy, or they spend all their money on avocado toast. And there's a constant debate of whether or not younger generations are weaker than the older ones. Well, I took a look at the data and I wanted to know if they were actually having a hard time financially, or was it just the fact that TikTok is rotting their brains and thus their ability to make money.
And you have the medium ice white mocha with 2 extra shots, 2 extra scoops of vanilla soft top and caramel drizzle and extra sugar sprinkles. Yeah, that's me.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or in fact, the country, and that is home prices. Now in 2022, when the average millennial turned 33 years old, the median home price in the United States was $433,100. Median household income was around.
Okay, let's just pause it here because I want you to have a chance to look at the numbers. 2022, median home price over $433,000. Median income over $70,000.
$70,000 in 2022. That means if you took 100% of the median income in 2022 and put it towards a home, it would take you roughly 6.11 years of your wages to buy that house outright. Now, of course, that's actually unrealistic. No one's going to take 100% of their income and just go buy a house with it. However, it serves as a really good benchmark metric. Now we can compare how many years of wages previous generations took to buy a house outright compared to what their median income was. And now that's kind of an apples to apples comparison. Now, this benchmark metric is going to be called the home to price income ratio. The average baby boomer turned the age of 33 back in the year 1988. That was the first year that Nike came out with the slogan, "Just do it." The Ford Escort was the most popular car at the time. And Back to the Future 2, one of my favorite movies of all time, was still being filmed. The median home price back in 1988 was $110,000, and the median income of a boomer was just about $27,000.
Pause. I just want you to see the difference, just how drastic the difference is. 1988, median home price over $110,000, median income over $27,000. So you can see the difference. This is what people like Joy Behar either are too, I don't want to say too foolish to understand, or either she does understand, but she's pretending not to see it. So it would have taken you 4 years to pay off that house if you use your entire income to pay off the house.
That means that their home to price income ratio was around 4. It would take 4 years of their median income in order to buy the median home at the time. In fact, some high earners back in the day were able to pay off their houses just with 1 or 2 years of wages. Now, historically, an average house in the US costs around 5 times the yearly household income. During the housing bubble of 2006 to 2008, it ballooned to a ratio of 7, as we can see here. But what's more startling now is that the home to price income ratio these days is well past that of the housing bubble levels.
Now, see, Joy wants to pretend that these things did not happen. She wants to pretend, so we have the housing crisis right here. So you can see the difference. A mess.
If you thought a ratio of 7 was bad, let's actually look at the average house price to average income ratio in the United Kingdom. Our friends or lads or mates across the pond in the UK have been seeing ratios consistently over 7 for the past 10 years, and lately it's been over 9. So if you're British and watching this video, I'm sorry, you're kind of more screwed than the average US citizen is, but at least you have some tea. I'm drinking some tea right now, and hopefully that kind of gives you some solace. Now, what's even more interesting is if we plot home price against the median household household income. So this is a graph of median annual household income plotted against the Case-Shiller Home Price Index. That's the index that seeks to measure the price level of existing single-family homes. So we're comparing a percentage change between the two. You can see that the general trend here is that the household income in black is above the home price index in red from the years of 1955 all the way to about 2005-ish. The black line being above the red line is a good thing. It means home prices are at least somewhat manageable. When the housing market started to bubble up pre-2008, we can see that the red line crossed over and it subsequently went back down in 2010 when
And you can see here, see the black line is meeting the red line again.
houses were cheaper after the crash. But these days, home prices have shot way above the median household income again, and that's definitely not good for the younger generation. The UK, by the way, even worse. I think oftentimes we see the news going on in America, and we think it's already been pretty bad, but if we just look at our English potatoes over there, we can see that they've been dealing with this for quite some time already. So if you thought that was bad, here's another graph of inflation versus the home prices from 1970 to 2023. You can see that the change in consumer price index here has been steadily going up linearly over time in the bottom darker blue.
So pay attention to this, guys. Inflation versus home price from 1970 to 2023.
Line. And while home prices have been outpacing inflation since 1970, in the past decade, you can just see this vertical increase and it's basically ballooning like crazy. So this article, which actually pulls data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the United States, states that, quote, spending $100,000 on a home in 1990 would equate to spending about $377,000 on a home today. For everyday living costs, though, $100,000 back in 1990 on goods and services would require $231,000 to get the same amount of goods today. So while inflation is definitely present, home prices have outpaced inflation by a good margin now for quite some time. There are a couple of reasons for this, and they have to do with demographics. So first is that the boomers didn't face as much competition back in the day. There simply weren't that many people living in the United States in the 1970s and 1980s, and population growth has really exploded in the past.
So boomers didn't really have to fight for people to buy a house. They didn't really have to fight with other people to buy a house, right? There's bidding wars that we have in reference to home ownership, especially here in Massachusetts. People are willing to forego homeowner inspections just to get the house. That's how insane it is. You should never forego a homeowner inspection, by the way. You should never forego that. You can end up with all kinds of issues. That house may look good on the surface, and then you end up realizing, oh no, there was water damage in this house. Oh no, this happened, that happened. So it's important that you get that home ownership, that inspection taken care of. But they had less competition because there was less people. So if you had less competition, the housing prices are obviously going to be less.
So back in the day, houses weren't as much in demand, and so you didn't really see that much competition for them. Boomers were also likely to get married early, and thus they would have a multiple income household from an early age. That means they were able to afford houses than the current younger generations. I'm sure that you've heard that millennials, they've been staying home a lot longer, and so they're actually delaying marriage, and they're staying single a lot longer too. According to the Pew Research Center, more than 4 in 10 millennials do not live with a family on their own, around 45%. That means only 55% of millennials live with their own families, and as you can see in the previous generations, this number was closer to 69%. Nice, or even 85% for these silent generations. Another huge reason why boomers were able to afford houses was the lower cost of education and the overall lower student loan debt balances that they experienced. It's no secret that tuition at four-year institutions is absolutely insane these days. I mean, the average price of a private school tuition or even a public school tuition is somewhere in the $30,000 to $50,000 a year range. Student debt is now a $1.7 trillion crisis, and as we can see here, over the 30 years between 1991 and 2021, average tuition prices have more than doubled.
So that's another thing too. I'm not going to play the entire video, but these are just some of the examples that Joy Behar needs to see, especially since she said she paid like $50 a semester. I didn't get through undergrad with one textbook that was under $50. And she paid $50 for tuition? So as I've said before, guys, there are very few class traders Corey, I'm ready for the second part whenever you're ready on the tight VNC. There are very few class traders. The ones that are there, that's great. It's awesome. But the reality is a lot of people like Joy that are in that millionaire, income bracket, they like their comfortability. They don't want other people. A lot of times they don't want to hear about other people's sob stories. They don't want to hear about their complaints about the economy because they're doing just fine. Doing just fine. Imagine making $7 million a year. Let me go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the member for 2 months. Sorry. Thank you, Mastermind Hour, who's been a member for 2 months, says Israel is spelled A before E, except after river to sea. You're adorable, Mastermind. Thank you for the super chat, NY Varsity. The days of putting yourself through college by waiting tables has been over for some time, and so is The View. Thank you, Cool Blue. The View says, F you to the young. The young voters aged 18 to 29 are the first to vote Democrat in elections. These polls showing 18 to 29 shifting away from Democrats is because Biden and the Dems offer them no helpful policy. I would agree with that. JB says he will have Eddie on his channel this Saturday. Yes, that was Eddie from Midwestern Marks, the TikTok short that you saw there. And JB says that'll be 7 p.m. ET. Thank you, NY Varsity. Going on a show to talk equals 7 million. School teacher salary equals 50K. Hearing Joy pontificate equals priceless. And honestly, the teacher salary of 50K, in some states is even less than that. Thank you, JM, not exactly 7 million. And thank you, Lyle, 69, not nice. Thank you so much for that.